Last summer was strange. I've worked this land my entire life, just like my dad and grandpa before me. I've seen hard times, but nothing prepared me for what happened. One night, I was checking the irrigation system. The air was calm. That's when I saw them. Lights flickered in the distance. I thought it was just my tired eyes, but something felt off. Over the next few weeks, the lights became harder to ignore. They danced above my fields like fireflies, but they were brighter, more erratic. Each night, I found myself glancing out the window, worried and curious. I kept hearing rustling sounds too. They were strange, more like whispers than anything normal. I tried to blame it on the wind, but something in me knew I was lying. My crops started to wither. I knew we were in a drought, but this was different. It felt like something was sucking the life out of them. I stood there, helpless, watching the lights flicker above. I wondered if they were connected to what was happening to my farm. It made me uneasy. Then one evening, I stepped outside. The night felt colder. My heart raced as I walked toward the field. The lights were flashing. I squinted, trying to make sense of it. The rustling sounds were louder now, but they weren't just the wind. My hands were clammy as I moved closer, and the air felt charged, like before a storm. I needed to know. I paused and waited. Nothing happened. Just silence and the lights above flashing sporadically. I turned around, feeling a knot in my stomach. Maybe it really was nothing, but I couldn't shake the feelings brewing inside me. That's when I heard it. Someone called my name softly, Jake. I spun around. The voice wasn't too familiar. A chill ran down my spine. And just like that, the lights vanished. The darkness swallowed the field, and the rustling stopped. I suddenly felt lighter, but the uncertainty lingered like a shadow. I stood frozen, unsure of what I just experienced. Had I imagined it? My mind raced with questions I couldn't answer. I returned to the house, and those lights haunted me after that. Every night, I remembered how real they felt and how they seemed to watch me. I tried to tell my neighbors, but they laughed it off. Just the effects of the drought, Jake. You work too hard. But I was sure it was more than that. My crops kept dying, and I felt like something was lurking in the night. I didn't sleep well after that. I kept thinking back to that voice and the flash of lights. What did they want from me? I still don't know. That summer changed everything, and I'll never forget it. The strange lights still flicker in my mind, a mystery that I can't shake. The next night, I struggled to sleep. My mind was racing, replaying that moment outside. I kept thinking about that voice. Who had called to me? Why? It felt like a weight pressing down on my chest. Eventually, I got up and made myself a cup of coffee. It wasn't too early, but I felt like time had stopped ever since those lights appeared. I peered out the window, scanning the darkened fields. Everything looked still, but something in me knew that wasn't right. I grabbed my jacket and stepped outside again. The chill in the air sent shivers down my spine. I walked toward the spot where I'd seen the lights. Nothing looked different, just rows of withered crops waiting for rain that never came to. As I reached the edge of the field, that familiar rustling returned. It was louder this time, like whispers brushing against the crops. I tried to ignore it, tell myself it was just the wind. I took a deep breath and steadied myself. Then I saw it. A faint glow flickering in the distance. I squinted, my heart pounding. Was it just my mind playing tricks on me again, or were those the lights? I swore they looked closer than before. Against my better judgment, I started to move toward them. Each step felt heavy, the ground beneath me almost vibrating. As I got nearer, the lights danced erratically, flickering in colors I'd never seen. I wanted to turn back, but my feet wouldn't let me. I found myself mesmerized, pulled in by their unnatural glow. That's when I heard the voice again. Jake. It was softer, almost a whisper, but it cut through the night. My breath caught in my throat. I froze. I felt like someone stood just behind me, though I could see no one. Panic surged through me. I whipped around, searching for anything, anyone, but the field was empty. Just me and those shimmering lights. My heartbeat thudded in my ears. I turned back toward the lights, and they pulsed like a heartbeat now. It was mesmerizing and terrifying all at once. Could they be calling me? I edged closer, my skin prickling with both fear and intrigue. Suddenly, I stumbled. I tripped over something half buried in the dirt. I fell to the ground and brushed the soil away. A small metal object glinted in the moonlight. Curious, I picked it up. It was an old pendant, tarnished and covered in dirt. I held it up closer to the lights, and for a moment, they shone brighter. Then, Just like before, they flickered violently and dimmed. My heart sank. The air felt different now, charged with tension. I glanced over my shoulder again, an instinctive sense that something was very wrong. That's when I heard it again, the rustling, but sharper now, more pronounced. I wasn't alone anymore. Someone, or something, was watching me. I pushed myself to my feet, clutching the pendant tightly. I had to get out of there. I ran back to the house, my thoughts in chaos. I didn't even know what I'd just uncovered, but I could feel it in my bones. I was just scratching the surface of something far more sinister. As I reached my door, I looked back one last time. The lights were gone, but their impression remained, lingering like a shadow over the fields. I locked the door and closed the curtains, but sleep wouldn't come. A new fear crept in. What if the lights weren't just an oddity? What if they were a warning? I couldn't shake the feeling that my summer was just beginning, and the mystery was far from over. The next day dragged on. I tried to focus on my chores, but my mind kept drifting back to the pendant. The images of the lights flooded my thoughts, swirling with every task I attempted. Gritting my teeth, I finally decided to look into the pendant more closely. Maybe it held some kind of clue. After breakfast, I cleared off a space on the kitchen table and set the pendant down. I grabbed a damp cloth and began wiping away the dirt. What I uncovered was a swirling design that seemed familiar yet strange at the same time. There was something about it that tugged at the back of my mind. With a deep breath, I reached for my phone and searched online. I typed in what I could make out from the designs. Ancient symbols, maybe? I glanced back at the pendant. The more I stared, the more I felt its pull, like it was demanding my attention. I couldn't ignore this. Hours passed, and the more I researched, the more confused I became. The symbols were part of an old folklore that spoke of light beings, spirits known to appear during times of crisis. I shoved the phone aside. My throat felt tight. Was I really thinking about this? I needed a break, so I went outside. The sunlight felt good, but it did little to ease the unease swirling inside me. I walked into the fields, feeling the weight of the pendant in my pocket. What was I even doing here? Searching for answers? Or maybe I was looking for trouble. That's when I heard it again, the rustling. It was unmistakable, closer now. My heart raced as I stopped walking. This time, it felt different. It was rhythmic, almost like something was moving intentionally among the crops. I turned, hoping it was just the wind again, but the field was eerily silent aside from that sound, and it sent shivers down my spine. Cautiously, I stepped closer to where the noise was coming from. The sound came from a patch of tall grass. I hesitated, torn between curiosity and fear. I wanted to bolt, but I couldn't stay away. Then I saw it. A flash of color slid through the grass, a brief, bright light, almost like the lights from the previous night. I gasped and stumbled back, realizing that it was coming from the direction of my old barn. The barn was barely used anymore, just a storage space for things I hadn't felt like dealing with. But now, I felt a twinge in my gut. The lights were calling to me again. My instincts screamed to run, but my curiosity was overpowering. Something was drawing me closer, and ignoring it felt impossible. With each step toward the barn, the strangeness of the last few nights washed over me like a wave. I was on the brink of finding something, but what? As I reached the barn doors, they creaked open slightly, the dim interior beyond luring me forward. That I pushed the door wider. Nothing prepared me for what was inside. More glimmers danced along the walls, casting flickering shadows. My breath caught. A figure stood at the far end of the barn just for a moment, before vanishing into darkness. My heart raced. Suddenly, stone-cold dread paralyzed me. What had I stumbled into? I needed to turn back, but the curiosity was like a chain, pulling me further in. Before I could process it all, I heard that whisper again, clearer now. Jake, and then, everything went dark. I staggered back, my hands hitting the rough wooden wall of the barn for support. Panic coursed through me. What is going on? I whispered into the darkness, half hoping for a response. A heavy silence hung in the air, broken only by the distant chirping of crickets outside. Then, a soft glow flickered near the ground, just at the edge of my vision. I squinted, trying to make sense of it. The light pulsed gently, illuminating a small area of the dirt floor. Hesitantly, I stepped forward, compelled by a force I didn't understand. As I approached, the glow intensified, and I noticed something nestled in the earth, a small, shimmering stone. I knelt down, reaching out a trembling hand. The moment my fingers brushed against the surface, a surge of energy shot through me, almost like static. I gasped and pulled back, startled. There was no doubt. Some kind of connection was forming, and it sent me reeling. The pendant in my pocket felt hot against my skin, as if it was alive. Heart racing, I looked around the barn. The figure I'd seen was gone, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was not alone. Then, almost as if the air itself shifted, the lights from the walls grew brighter, swirling like tiny galaxies. I gasped again, overwhelmed by the sight. But then, another sound broke through the creak of the barn doors swinging shut. I whipped around. Was someone else here? The anxiety bubbled up inside me, urging me to turn and run, but my feet felt frozen. Who is there? I called out, my voice trembling slightly. There was no answer, only the soft hum of the lights. A flash of movement caught my eye, and my heart skipped. For a brief second, I thought I saw the figure again, standing just outside the pool of light, watching me. Fear twisted in my stomach. I couldn't just stay here and wait. But turning my back felt like the worst idea. Jake, the whisper came again, closer this time. It wrapped around my mind, planting itself deep in my thoughts. What did it want from me? Why did it know my name? With a surge of adrenaline, I turned back toward the glowing stone. I reached for it again, this time more resolved. I had to know what it meant, what it was. As my fingers wrapped around the stone, the lights flared, and suddenly everything snapped into focus. Visions flooded my mind, flashes of people, shadows moving quickly, and the same bright lights dancing through the night sky. I gasped as images morphed into scenes of chaos, places I recognized but couldn't understand. It was overwhelming and made my head spin. Just when I thought I might pass out from the onslaught of sensations, a loud bang echoed outside, rattling the barn. Instinct kicked in. I dropped the stone, fear flooding my system. I turned toward the door. Someone or something was outside. In that moment, I didn't care about the lights or the figure anymore. I only wanted to escape. I had to get outside. But as I rushed toward the barn door, I felt a cold breeze sweep past me, definitely not my imagination. Something was coming. Before I could reach the exit, a hand gripped my shoulder, firm and unyielding. I spun around, ready to face whatever lay behind me. I whirled to confront whoever or whatever had just touched me. My breath hitched in my throat. It was a tall figure, shrouded in shadows, with piercing eyes that seemed to glow in the dim light of the barn. My heart raced. The hilt of a knife, glinting, rested at its waist. "Jake," the figure said again, voice low and steady. "Who are you?" I stammered, backing into the wall behind me. Panic surged within me, but I couldn't let it show. "What do you want from me?" "I'm here to help." "You need to listen," the figure replied, stepping closer. The haze of shadows around it shifted like mist in the light. "Help?" I echoed, my mind racing with doubt. "You have to be kidding." The tension in the air thickened, and I felt the urge to bolt again, but something in those eyes grounded me. "You touched the stone," it said, gesturing to the spot where the shimmering rock lay abandoned. "That means you're involved." "Whoa, involved with what?" My voice rose, panic edging in. "What are you talking about?" "What stone?" "Not here," it insisted, glancing toward the barn doors. "We are being watched. If you trust me, we can get out safely. If we stay, you won't just be in danger. You're in more danger than you realize." I hesitated. 1,000 thoughts raced through my mind. I didn't even know this person, but my instincts screamed at me to follow. The whisper had called my name. I could feel the weight of its meaning. "What do I have to do?" I asked, my voice firmer this time. "Just stay close and don't look back. Do you understand?" The figure extended an arm toward the door, a silent invitation. With no other choice, I nodded. The barn haunting me while an unseen threat loomed outside was worse than the uncertainty of this strange ally. I had to trust something. I took a step towards the barn doors. As we moved, the air around us shifted again, as if charged with a different energy. I could feel the lights behind me dimming, retreating into darkness, making way for something else to emerge. The figure moved quickly, gliding through the space with an urgency I matched, but I couldn't shake the feeling that every second spent in the barn made us more vulnerable. Just as we reached the doors, a sharp crack echoed from somewhere outside, like thunder rumbling after a storm. I froze for a moment. What was that? "Run!" the figure shouted, pushing me lightly forward that I burst through the door and into the cool night air, shadows flickering across the ground. The reality of outside hit me like a punch. The stars sparkled overhead, but they felt ominous against the chaos in my mind. I looked behind me. The barn stood in silence, a menacing silhouette against the moonlight. My heart pounded as the feeling of being watched grew stronger. That's when I saw it, figures moving in the distance, dark shapes merging with the tall grass. My breath caught in my throat. I had stepped into something far beyond my understanding. What is going on? I gasped, adrenaline surging. The figure next to me didn't answer. Instead, it turned towards the shapes, the expression unreadable. The time for answers was upon us, but I felt dread pooling in my stomach. Whatever was coming, it wouldn't stop until it found what it was looking for. Then everything went dark. I stumbled as darkness engulfed me. It wasn't just the loss of light. It was the feeling of everything spinning out of control. I reached out instinctively, my fingers brushing against something solid, the figure next to me. I could barely see it anymore, the edges blurred and swallowed by the night. Stay close, it whispered, voice steady despite the chaos. It must be since my fear. What happened? I managed to choke out as I tried to catch my breath. My heart raced as silence surrounded us, the weight of uncertainty heavy in the air. No time to explain, it said, urgency creeping into the tone. We need to move. Follow my voice. I nodded, even though I could barely see where we were heading. I clung to that sound, the promise of safety echoing in the darkness. But as we inched forward, I felt the air shift, a chill creeping in that sent shivers down my spine. Something was out there, lurking in the shadows. There, I heard the figure say suddenly, its voice sharp with awareness. I barely had time to react as it yanked me to the side. From the depths of the night, a beam of light sliced through the air, illuminating our surroundings for a fleeting moment. I squinted and caught a glimpse of several figures more than before, moving with purpose towards us. They were dressed in dark clothing, faces obscured, but their intent was clear. What do they want? I whispered, panic tightening my chest. They must have sensed the stone's awakening. The figure replied, voice tight. Move. Before I could respond, it pulled me into a sprint. We dashed across the uneven ground, the wind rushing past us, my lungs burning as I tried to keep up. I could hear them behind us, their footsteps crunching on the grass like thunder. I risked a quick glance back, heart dropping as I saw a light flicker in the dark, a lantern held by one of the figures. The glow bounced against the trees, illuminating their determined faces. My breath quickened. They were closing in. Why are they doing this? I gasped, fear anchoring my feet to the ground. Because you're marked, the figure shot back, leading me through a gap in the trees. The stone has chosen you. Now you have to outrun them. Marked? What does that even mean? I felt dizzy, each word mixing with anger and confusion. Everything will make sense soon. For now, just trust me. The reassurance in that voice still felt far from solid. Then, something shifted again. A loud thud rang out, shaking the earth beneath my feet. I staggered, nearly tumbling over, but caught myself just in time. The figure steadied me with a hand on my shoulder. What was that? I shrieked, panic rising in my throat like bile. What? The figure shouted back, but before they could respond, a cry rang out, a howling sound, primal and raw, echoing through the trees. Keep running. It wasn't just a command. It felt like a warning. In that moment, as the darkness closed in around us, I realized I had stepped into a nightmare. And wherever we were headed, it was only the beginning. We pushed deeper into the woods, the ground uneven beneath our feet. I could hardly keep up, my heart racing wildly as I heard the distant laughter of the figures behind us, taunting. The shadows closed in, wrapping around me like cold tendrils. Is there a plan? I gasped, my breaths coming in sharp bursts. I had to know if we had a chance. Yes, the figure replied, voice low but steady. We just need to reach the clearing. It's safer there. Safer from what? I almost choked on the words. The howling was growing louder, mingling with the pounding of my heart. From them, the figure said, and I could feel the tension in their voice. Just then, a flicker of light danced in the trees ahead. My stomach dropped. It lit the space with an otherworldly glow, casting long shadows that moved like they had a mind of their own. I squinted, trying to discern what it was. Panic surged anew. There! I shouted, pointing. What is that? Focus. The figure snapped, pulling me back to our path. It's not our concern right now. We sprinted toward the clearing, but that light seemed to pulse, luring me in. What if it's a way out? What if they're drawing us to them? We don't know what it is. The figure shouted angrily. Trust me, it's a trap. Just keep going. I wanted to argue, wanted to scream, but I knew we were running out of time. As we emerged into the open space, a sudden rush of wind whipped through the clearing, carrying a distant howl that sent shivers down my spine. I glanced back to see the figures enter the treeline, lantern in hand, the light illuminating their faces for the briefest second. They advanced slowly, deliberately, and with every step, I felt that terror creeping back in. My chest tightened. The light breathed behind me, radiant and strange, casting shadows that twisted and warped. I turned to the figure beside me, their face now almost visible in the faint glow. Where do we go now? I asked, desperation rising. Over there. They pointed toward a cluster of boulders, partially hidden in the underbrush. If we can reach those, we might be able to hide. Just then, the howl returned, clearer and closer. My instincts kicked in, and with no time to waste, we rushed toward the rocks. The weight of the moment pressed heavily on my shoulders. As we reached the boulders, I saw the strange light, flickering close by, beckoning me. Stay down. The figure hissed, pulling me into the darkness of the rocks. I barely managed to crouch low as the sounds of the pursuers grew louder. But then, from the corner of my eye, I spotted the light again. It wasn't just a glow, it was shifting, changing shape like it was alive. My breath caught in my throat. I had to know what it was. Don't. The figure warned, grabbing my arm tightly. But I couldn't tear my gaze away. That S when the light flared bright, revealing a stranger standing just beyond the clearing. They wore a hooded cloak, and as they raised a hand, I felt a pull towards them that was impossible to resist. The figure beside me gripped my arm tighter. Don't look at it. They urged, fear etched on their features. But I couldn't help it. The stranger's face, half lit by that eerie glow, was unmistakably familiar. Who are you? I breathed, heart pounding with both fear and recognition. The figure by my side looked panicked. We have to move now. And just like that, I knew I had to make a choice. But before I could think, the howl broke free again, echoing through the night. The sound of footsteps raced towards us, and the choice was no longer mine. I jumped at the sound of heavy footsteps crunching the leaves behind us. The cloaked figure flickered like a flame, and my heart raced even faster. I had to make a decision. The figure beside me pulled away from the rocks, urging me to move. I had one foot out, ready to follow, but my gaze was still fixed on the glowing stranger. Come on. My companion shouted again, desperation filling their voice. The urgency snapped me back, and I felt myself being dragged away from the light. I stumbled, leaving the enigmatic hooded figure behind, the glow dimming as we took cover behind the boulders. Which way? I asked, my voice barely a whisper, panic twisting in my gut. The howls grew closer, bouncing off the trees like a haunting melody. There's a path to the left, just keep running, the figure said, kneeling low and scanning the perimeter. But we need to be quiet. I nodded, wanting to comply, but the words of the stranger lingered in my mind. The familiarity gnawed at me. Who were they? And why did it feel like I knew them? Without warning, a piercing scream broke through the sounds of the forest. A chill crawled over my skin. The figures pursuing us, I could hear their laughter clearly now, mocking and cruel. I couldn't let them catch us. We darted down the narrow path my companion indicated, branches whipping against my arms. I barely kept up, each footfall echoing a rhythm of dread. After what felt like an eternity, we burst into another clearing. In the center stood an old, abandoned barn, its wood rotting, sagging under the weight of time. Inside, my companion ordered, and we sprinted toward it. As we reached the barn, I glanced back. The light had flickered again, now shining brightly, illuminating the area in a surreal glow. The figures had stopped at the edge of the clearing, their lanterns casting eerie shadows as they exchanged hushed words. I could see their eyes reflect the glow. Why are they stopping? I asked, breathless, as we squeezed inside the barn. They're waiting, the figure responded, peering through a crack in the wooden planks. They know we're here. They're planning their next move. Panic surged again. What do we do? My voice trembled. Just keep low and stay quiet. They might lose interest. As if punctuating their words, the howls erupted again, now mixed with disjointed laughter that sent a shudder through me. The shadows danced outside, flickering under the lanterns. "Look," my companion whispered, pointing toward the end of the barn. A series of wooden crates stood stacked, partially covered in dust and scraps. I squinted, heart sinking. One crate had a hole, barely big enough to fit my hand. I could almost see something glimmering inside. "What is that?" I whispered, my voice tinged with curiosity and fear. "I don't know, but I have a bad feeling about it." Before I could question this new development or decide if I should investigate, the roof creaked ominously. The figures outside were moving, edging closer, their shadows merging like ink spilling across the ground. Then I heard the stranger's voice again, calling faintly from the woods. "Help me!" My heart dropped. Whoever that was, it couldn't be good. Inside the barn, a musty smell hit me like a wave. It was dark, but the faint light from outside filtered through the slats, casting long shadows on the ground. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched, even as we hid. "Do you see what's in that crate?" I asked, unable to take my eyes off the mysterious glimmer. My curiosity clawed at me. "Focus. Keep your head down," my companion urged, kneeling by the wall, their voice barely louder than a whisper. "We can't get distracted." The laughter outside intensified, and I felt a shiver creep up my spine. It was like they were toying with us, hunting us for sport. Every echoing cackle mixed with a howl felt personal. I pressed my back against the rough wood of the barn, trying to quiet my racing heart. "Do you think they know we're in here?" I mumbled, glancing at the crates again. The glimmer was hard to ignore. "What if whoever or whatever that is can help us? Or it could be a trap," they replied sharply. "We can't afford to take chances." I wasn't convinced. The voice calling for help from the woods had stirred something deep inside me. What if it was connected to the cloaked figure? What if they were linked in some way? Suddenly, a loud bang reverberated outside, making me jump. The cloaked figures had kicked something, maybe a rock or a piece of wood. Their voices rose in a frenzied exchange, punctuated by more laughter that I looked at the crate again. The bright glimmer became harder to resist. "I need to see what's in there," I insisted, inching closer despite the warning in my companion's eyes. "You can't. What if they see you?" I hesitated but felt drawn to it. The curiosity morphed into something sharper, a pulse of energy that begged to be unleashed. I crouched lower and edged toward the crate, the rough floor creaking beneath my weight. When I reached the crate, I looked into the hole. My heart raced as I tried to make sense of what I saw. An object rested at the bottom, glinting with that strange light. It looked almost like a stone, but not like any I had ever seen. It shimmered as if lit from within. "What did you find?" my companion whispered, glancing nervously at the door. "Just," I started, but then everything went dark. The light outside vanished in an instant, engulfing the barn in a heavy silence. The laughter and howls faded, leaving an eerie void. "Did they leave?" my companion asked, their voice trembling. I peered through a crack, my breath catching. The figures were gone, but in their place, two pairs of red eyes glowed in the darkness, fixed on me. My heart sank. "Run!" I shouted, instinctively clutching the crate. But before I could make a move, a chilling voice echoed through the barn. "Why are you taking what's not yours?" I froze, the weight of the crate in my arms suddenly feeling unbearably heavy. The shadows deepened in the barn, and the chill of fear clamped down on my throat. "What do you mean?" I stammered, my heart racing wildly. The glowing eyes remained eerily fixed on me, pupils contracting against the dark. I could barely see my companion beside me, their silhouette tense and unmoving. "That stone belongs to us," the voice dripped with a low menace. "You should have never touched it." The weight of the crate suddenly felt suffocating, like it was pressing against my chest. The whispering rustle returned, louder this time, echoing through the barn as if it carried warnings and threats. I could feel the air change, thick with tension and uncertainty. "Put it down, Jake," my companion urged, their eyes wide with panic. "We need to leave now." I hesitated, glancing down at the crate, the glimmering object still tantalizing within. It seemed to pulse with an energy that called to me, wrapping around my thoughts and confusing the fear. Big mistake, I thought. The ease of curiosity dissolved into an urgent need to escape. "Listen," I shouted into the dark, my voice trembling. "I don't want any trouble. We just found it. Laughter fell like a curtain around us, cruel and vibrant. You think you can just walk in and take what's ours? You do not belong here, human. The eyes narrowed. The darkness swirled, and in a flash, the shadows seemed to thicken, coalescing into a form, some kind of dark figure stepping closer. I could barely see its features, but the hilt of a blade glinted in the dark, jarring my instincts awake. "Jake!" My companion grabbed my arm, urgency lacing their voice. Now, without thinking, I dropped the crate, a heavy thud echoing in the barn as it hit the wooden floor. I took off towards the back exit, pulled by the instinct to flee. My companion was already ahead, leading me through the narrow space of the barn, dodging between old machinery and faded memories. "What about the light?" I panted, glancing back. The shadows stirred, taking on shapes that danced around the perimeter of the barn. The voice echoed behind us, mocking, "You can't escape the darkness." But we pushed through, sprinting out of the barn and into the cold night. Moonlight poured over us, illuminating the overgrown path that snaked away from the barn. I could feel the pull of the figures chasing after us, their presence a tangible weight on my shoulders. As we ran, I saw the flickering lights again, some kind of beacon shimmering in the distance. The vision of the cloaked figure entered my mind, face partially illuminated. I couldn't explain the connection I felt, but instinct guided me. We needed to reach that source of light. "Where are we going?" I shouted, fear rushing through me. "Towards the clearing," my companion urged, their voice coming from somewhere distant. The shadows behind grew thicker with every step we took, laughter still trailing us, a sinister song weaving through the night. Suddenly, a figure lunged from the darkness, a flash of light catching my peripheral vision. I skidded to a halt, heart leaping into my throat as I turned to confront whatever was coming. But it was gone in an instant, swallowed back into the shadows, leaving only shattered silence behind. Dread crept in as I glanced back to my companion, grasping their arm tightly to keep them close. "What is happening? What do they want?" "They want the stone," they said breathlessly. "We have to keep moving." But the more we ran, the more I felt both the weight of the unknown and the relentless chase firing up inside me. Panic surged, and I could taste the fear on my tongue. Would we ever be free of this night? Ahead, that strange light flickered again, pulsing with promise and the eerie glow of familiarity. It felt both inviting and terrifying, a duality of comfort and fear that sent chills racing down my spine. I glanced at my companion, whose expression mirrored my own uncertainty. Would answering that call offer clarity or drag us deeper into this madness? I couldn't say. I had walked into this nightmare when I picked up that pendant, and as we barreled toward the light, it became clear. The truth was just another shadow waiting to be uncovered. "Jake!" "There!" my companion yelled, pulling me back into motion. As we raced ahead, leaving behind both the mockery of the darkness and the weight of the unanswered questions, I couldn't shake the feeling that this escape was merely the next chapter in a story I had yet to understand. Would the light yield revelations, or would it lead us right back to the horrors from which we were fleeing? Only time would tell. As we moved forward, unsure of what awaited us at the end of the path, with every beat of my heart, the mystery tightened its grip on me, and despite my best attempts to flee it, the journey was far from over.